Rock and Jouve. Rock and Jouve. Rock and Jouve. Rock and Jouve. Rock and Jouve.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Rock and Jouve Show.
Rock and Jouve Show live in person right now.
Live in person, big
here.
episode.
Small episode after last night's game.
Yes. So we're going to give a quick recap here. Game 1 and 2. Al's here. This is his last day. We are recording this on the way to breakfast before Al leaves. So we have until we arrive to sum up these two games, which is probably good for us.
Yeah, it's perfect. So we don't ramble on,
Ramble? Yeah. So the Celtics are tied 1-1 with the Golden State Warriors, heading back to Boston. And game 1 was a pretty great win. We turned it around in that fourth quarter, huge fourth quarter win, 39 to about 16, I think. We outscored them in the fourth quarter. Everybody was just really focused. Great performances from Al Horford, Derek White, Marcus Smart. And then game 2, we fell short and ended up, getting blown out in the end in garbage time. Maybe the last 8 minutes of the game, maybe even the last quarter was garbage time. Lost that one. Al, do you think that so we took and made a lot of threes in game 1. Do you think that it's necessary to play kind of the Warriors game and take all those threes and live by the 3 and die by the 3, or do you think we can kind of beat them in a different way?
No, I actually think Boston can beat them in a different way, and I think that's probably going to have to be the formula. I mean, it was on Golden State's home court in the new Chase Center, and so the Warriors were kind of just running up and down. In the first game, the Celtics were able to match that shit. That was huge. I mean, some of the role players were stepping up. Al Horford, 26 points. Derek White, 21 points. And, those are the guys. That's, the difference in the game right there. It's if you have the role players show up like that, both of them combining for 27 points. Tatum laid a stinker, and you guys still won pretty handedly. So, that was extremely important. But, I think when the series goes back to the TD Garden, I could see Boston just trying to play a classic Eastern Conference playoff game, like you guys had some of those against the Heat, against the Bucks, where it was just grinded out. It was just a lot of half-court possessions, and I think, obviously, the Warriors are a great offensive team, whether they're able to get out and run or run in the half-court, but I think once you limit their fast break opportunities and they don't just have shooters running to corners and either Curry or Draymond Green with the ball in their hands just trying to find them, it definitely makes it a little bit easier to guard them, and I think that could be what Udoka comes out with. How are you?
Yeah, I think that I always say once a team starts playing the other team's game, it kind of spells disaster. The Celtics were a decent three-point shooting team throughout the year. That's of course how you remember. I think we beat Milwaukee in Game 6 that way by just blowing the roof off of the place. We do have 2 All-Stars on the team. Al Horford is one of the great shooting bigs, really, probably of all time. We're in a new era. I think he leads in some, playoff statistics for three-point shooting. I don't have the stats in front of me because I am at a red light, but...
We are free balling it right now.
We are, but no, I think that we need to play our game, and Tatum had another kind of bad night last night. A very quiet. I don't know. Maybe he had 25, 30.
Yeah, he just kind of got hot in the second quarter, and then after that he was like, all right, thanks guys.
Yeah, we can't be so feast or famine. I think we need more consistency. I think, Grant Williams, everybody had a lot of fouls in the beginning, which I think is really kind of what does it. Williams had 2 fouls. I think Brown had 2 fouls in the beginning. Al had 2 fouls. Tatum picked up his second foul in the second. You know what I mean?
I think I even had a foul.
You probably did. You probably picked up at least one. Yeah. I don't know. It's just... I think the reffing changed from game 1 to game 2. That's all I'm going to say. I don't know if there's any... we're going to speculate if there's any business decisions behind that, but I'm going to say that I think the reffing changed from game 1 to game 2.
Was it the same? I know Tony Brothers did last night, but I think it was Scott Foster in game one. I think they might have been switching them up, so that could be a little switch up.
Yeah, it felt like a switch up. It felt like that we had a lot more fouls against us. And Curry had a vintage Curry game last night. But Gary Payton Jr., or the second, I don't know if it's different, but he came in last night. Do you think that that's a factor? I mean, he came in, hit some threes, and same thing with Jordan Poole. Do you think that that the Warriors' success relies more on those two guys really contributing off the bench, or more on Steph and Clay, if that makes any sense?
I think it's definitely more on Steph and Clay, but anything that they get from Poole and the other young guys in the bench is definitely just playing with house money. I mean, Poole was brilliant last night in the third quarter and the fourth quarter, and that kind of, honestly, like that shot at the end of the third quarter, the buzzer beater from around half court, kind of, for all intents and purposes, ended the game. But in terms of Gary Payton the second, he was coming off that elbow injury. Like, it definitely helps because he could be one of their best. He might be their best perimeter defender that they have on the team at this point. I mean, like, Draymond Green is great, but like in terms of like guard wing defenders, someone that you're playing at that position, I mean, that's what Gary Payton brings to the table. And I mean, I don't know how much time necessarily he was matched up on Marcus Smart, but between Marcus Smart and Peyton Pritchard, the 2 point guards, they did jack shit last night. But what was... I had a point that I wanted to say. Sorry, we usually like plan our episodes out. We got little bullet notes and everything like that. But again, we said we're freeballing it right now. Yeah, so I would say, but it's definitely going to come down to Steph and Clay, and especially Clay, because he hasn't...
Clay had a quiet game.
Yeah, he's kind of had a quiet series, and he hasn't exactly welcomed himself to the party yet, as Curry's had, I think, like 230 points.
Yeah, it's not something I can necessarily fault him for, because, I mean, obviously he, has made a comeback, and I know he's had, some time to readjust and everything, but, I mean, getting thrown into the finals when you haven't played a full season is still pretty intense. I would say that Jordan Poole, he kind of got nicknamed one of the Splash Brothers in Clay's absence. And, I mean, we definitely felt that last night. I'd say that his success is, I would say it's just as important as Stephen Clay's, because that's the guy you don't plan for. When Al Horford beat the Milwaukee Bucks in a game, I think that was the Game 6. I can't remember. No, Game 6 was Tatum. Game 6 was Tatum, right?
Yeah.
So,
right,
but I can't remember.
They each had 40, him and Giannis.
I can't remember each game specifically, but Al Horford beat the Bucks one day, and Grant Williams beat the Bucks one day, and that's on coaching. That's on not being prepared. You don't let Grant Williams score 27 on you to win a playoff game. You just don't. So and that's kind of what my thinking is with Jordan Poole is, that Steph is going to have 30. That Clay can have 30. Where are they getting the rest of their points from? Jordan Poole. If Jordan Poole has 30, now you're facing a 90-point game. It's just, I don't know. I think that it's
like, he's obviously the guy that, like, obviously you're trying to take Stephen Curry out of the game. You're not really worrying about Draymond Green offensively. Like, right. He's gonna get his assists. He's gonna, like, be setting like 3 picks on every possession. Like, that is what it is. But Klay Thompson's another guy. Like, if you let him get hot, like, you're fucked. Like, the game's over.
Yeah.
Jordan Poole, you're kind of just like, all right, you know what? If we can limit Steph and Clay, and Jordan Poole's the one that's beating us, it's like, it is what it is. But at the same time, once he gets hot, you have to adjust your game plan.
Because Jordan Poole is the kind of guy that can beat you.
Yeah, 100%. Like, he's not ass. He's not ass.
No, he's not ass by any means. But that's what's nice again. We always gush about the Warriors, but I mean, they've done this. They've made it here for that reason. But
another guy we haven't even mentioned yet is Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah, he just occurred to me. He doesn't stress me out. Honestly, Poole worries me more than.
I would say because of what he's able to do, like his ceiling offensively, but he was stressing me out last night.
Yeah, he was.
There seemed to be
I mean, we were letting it slip away, and if Wiggins comes up and hits a 3, I just said respectfully, I don't want to see him score. That's the player. And then Draymond was brought up. Draymond and Andrew Wiggins are 2 players that I don't really want to see score the basketball. So Tatum kind of had a quiet, inefficient game last night. Game 1, inefficient. It was just a bad game. So 1-1 heading into Boston. Do you think that, I mean, this is a Tatum step-up game, or do you think this is a everybody else step-up? Because Brown's had 2 solid games.
You know what? I'm going to say it's a Tatum and Brown step-up game because, like, Jaylen Brown
That's
was
a cop-out.
No.
That's a cop-out.
It is. No. I mean, it isn't. Because Jaylen Brown, he was great to start the game, and then he kind of had his great quarter early on. In the second half, when the lead's starting to dwindle away, he was nowhere to be found. Same with Jason Tatum. Like, he heated up for a little bit, and then he was nowhere to be found. So I think it's on the both of them. It's kind of been on the both of them the whole year. That's the way the roster's set up. Is that those 2 guys are going to have to do the bulkier scoring, and especially against Golden State. I mean, who's going to be putting up 110, 120 points a game as long as they're playing their style of basketball? Like, in order to compete with that, like, you want to have each of those guys have 25 to 30 points. And to be honest here, you want that shit to happen efficiently too. And that's kind of the problem. I don't think that much of the blame has to get shouldered on the other guys because, like, sure, you need, like, you're trying 8 guys out there, you want all those guys to contribute. But you can't expect Al Horford and Derek White to combine for 47 points.
No.
Like, if you can get them to combine for 30 points, it's like, oh, shit,
Right.
okay.
And that's the thing is it's just like a little bonus, you know what I mean? If those guys do that, but at the end of the day, Tatum and Curry, it's your jobs, and you know, I've always said that Curry has the best number 2 in basketball. Debatably one of them in Klay Thompson, but I also think that Tatum has one of the better number 2s in basketball.
Sure.
Probably one of the top, I don't know, 5. Maybe.
I feel like that's definitely fair.
Yeah, like
That's definitely fair.
you think of 2 great players, LeBron and AD. That's not a great number 2. You know what I mean? It's like a 1A, 1B, and they're really both like a 3A, 3B. You know what I mean? In reality,
Sure was bad.
they had a bad year.
And another thing to think about is, it just seems like when you have the home floor in the playoffs, especially in the NBA Finals, that your role players, they kind of get like a little like +3 overall.
They do. They get a little boost.
That's exactly what happens. I mean, I don't know if Jordan Poole's like a little better than a role player, but like someone like Gary Payton Jr. coming off injury, he gets a little bump. Like the young guys they got coming off the bench, like freaking Bielitsa hitting like stupid threes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so that I think that's gonna happen when we go to the TD Garden. Like Grant Williams is gonna remember how to shoot that corner 3 because he shot it there all year. I don't know, like Peyton Pritchard, I could see having like a couple nice moments in the start of the 4th quarter when you're trying to rest the stars and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's the stuff I expect to happen, but like you want it to be a close game because there's been a ton of blowouts in the playoffs, and it's very hard to blow out the Golden State Warriors. I mean, some teams did it. Memphis did it. Dallas is one when they did it.
Just because they're not going to miss that many threes. They're going to keep themselves in the game.
Yeah. So if it's a close game, it's going to come down to Brown and it's going to come down to Tatum.
Right. Yeah. I do kind of feel like, going back to Boston, I do. Because we had a great first game. We hit a lot of stuff. And then they had a great second game. They hit a lot of stuff. But we also turned the ball over a lot last night. And they definitely capitalized off those turnovers. I remember seeing the point differential off of turnovers at one point. It was pretty glaring. I think Golden State is first of all, Curry pretty much had the clamps on. Curry was, I saw like some footage of him playing defense last night, and he was very effective. Klay Thompson is still, I would say, I don't know really post-injury, but I would say he was an elite defender at one point.
Absolutely.
Draymond Green, obviously a great defender. Yeah, like you say, Gary Payton Jr. So
I remember people at one point were like, Klay Thompson is essentially like the best 3-and-D player of all time.
Yeah,
like in his peak.
Yeah, he probably is. He probably is. You're right. But that's kind of the thing is we just turned. I mean, yes, they're a good defensive team, but we turned the ball over. We gave it up a lot last night. Way more than we should have. So I'm hoping that we kind of limit those turnovers. And that was every game we turn over the ball like that. Those are the games that we lose. I know that's mostly how it goes, but especially against the Heat, it was pretty shocking. Games where we'd have 20-something turnovers and we'd get blown out. You know what I mean? Just converting off those turnovers, and I think that's one thing that we got to watch out for in Game 2.
Now, riddle me this one. Would you make any changes to the rotation for Game 3?
That's tough. It's tough because I would say, if Robert Williams was not nursing an injury, I would say to play him more. Obviously we didn't really see him in the fourth quarter, so for me to really comment on the rotation but I don't know. I'd have to look. I'd want to see more time with. At one point we were going small ball, and they kind of had Kevon Looney out there, and I didn't really love that, because he is just a big guy.
It's kind of like trying to beat them at their own game. It didn't work for Dallas.
No, exactly. So, yeah, I'd like to see, and Tatum does that thing where he comes out halfway through the first, and I just don't think you can build any momentum that way. I would rather see him, Joe mentioned that, your brother that mentioned that that's what they do with Luka. They bench him the start of the second half. I would rather, or the start of the second quarter. I would rather see that from Tatum because you just can't get anything going. I feel like Tatum, and I do feel like he's nursing that shoulder injury, but I feel like I've not seen him actually get going at all.
No. And another thing my brother did point out that ended up being pretty fairly accurate during the game is that Draymond Green got his first technical foul very early. I think it was like the beginning of the second quarter, or maybe even the end of I think it was the end of the first quarter because there was jawing, right? He was jawing back and forth with Tatum. He's drawing back and forth with Grant Williams, and then he finally got called for a technical. And then he's kind of just like, yeah, once you get to the technical out of the way, none of the refs want to eject him. They're be like, oh, are you going to be the one to make the call? Oh, is that going to be on you? And then he had what probably normally would have been a double technical foul in a regular season game or another playoff game, and they're kind of just like, yeah, we can't eject Draymond, so we're not going to give one to Jaylen Brown either. And then Jaylen Brown not Jaylen Brown. Draymond Green definitely had his fingerprints all over the rest of the game, and he easily could have been ejected there. You could probably give Draymond one or two, a technical at least every single game, just because of he's always trying to get in the opponent's head, and he definitely chirps the refs and whatnot. But that definitely was also officiating. We brushed on it earlier, but officiating definitely was a factor because you never know. Scott Foster's he's a veteran. He definitely likes to stir the pot, and if he did throw out Draymond Green after that scuffle with Jaylen Brown, we might be having a different conversation right now. I think
so. No, I definitely think so.
We might have started this morning with, oh, what's up, Rocket Jouve, baby?
Yeah. We out here. Honking the horn. Beep, beep, beep. I saw some video, too. Every time you take Draymond video, out of context, he looks like the worst basketball player ever. There's one... and I sent it to you. Why don't you pull it up on your phone real quick and just give me a little live analysis? I sent it to you on Instagram. I'd like to hear your opinion on it. But basically, in the play, Draymond has both arms out like he's setting a women's screen, kind of up on his chest, and he's just bowling through. I don't remember Grant Williams. Then, do you see it? It's with Draymond Green. Did I send it to you? I didn't. But essentially, he's bowling through. He's bowling through.
How recent was it?
Say, look.
We're stopped, by the way.
Yeah. See that he pushes out Horford and then gets that,
Oh, yeah, look at that. He literally was just a tight end right there.
That's not fair basketball. So, why does Draymond get to do that random-ass shit?
Nah, literally, he does be doing that shit all fucking game.
So...
nobody wants to eject him. Nobody wants to foul him out.
No,
And especially because of what happened in 2016. And
that was it.
And kind of used that as the excuse. Draymond got suspended and we lost. And nobody wants to hear that narrative. Nobody wants to hear, the officials are the ones who dictated the series.
Yeah.
And
I'm not stressed. I'm not super worried about going down or tying it up 1-1. Not because I'm we're gonna kill him. I think we have to fight for every game, and I think that they do too. I don't think anybody's gonna get any easy wins in these finals.
Yeah, at the end of the day, that was definitely the goal to win at least one game in Golden State.
Exactly.
Last night was house money, but it just sucks that you guys.
No, and it does suck, but if I'm Golden State, I'm not going down 0-2 going into Boston. I'm not. So, for them to really pull together and put together a little run and hit all their shots they know they needed to hit, that's business as normal, as usual for them. So, overall, I would say to have an optimistic tone still. I mean, yeah, it's still early in the series. I kind of am allotting for this to be a 7-game series. So that's how I'm looking at it. I'm not like, we got to win in 5. Like, no. Like, let's take our time. Let's win the games that we can win, and let's just play smart about it. So that's it. When's the next game out? Wednesday.
Let me look that shit up. Yeah, I think they do. I think it's Wednesday and then Friday after that. Could definitely be wrong.
I think you're right.
Let's see. NBA Wednesday, June 8th is going to be Game 3 in Boston, and then Friday, June 10th. So, I mean, the Warriors, it definitely stings a little bit less, that loss, that you get to sit down there for 2 days. You kind of almost forget how that game happened in the second half.
And I felt like
you go out there completely fresh.
Exactly, and that's how I felt like those post-game conferences were. I do feel like everybody was kind of like, oh, like, we're just going to forget this game, move past us. And I like to hear that. Don't beat yourself up about it. It was a bad game, and you lost, but, and I think in this particular case, you don't need to be like, stupid Al, stupid Tatum. He's on the podium smashing his head against the microphone. Like, fuck! Yeah, like, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think, yeah, we lost, and I think we just kind of didn't really have it, and, yeah, let's just forget it. Let's just go to the next one,
I think that's kind of funny. The thing that's kind of funny is that, obviously we played the other day. The last game we played, I wasn't good.
Mm-hmm.
I had the classic faded the universe, Martians pointing the death beam shot.
Do you want to quickly recap?
I missed that shit.
You want to
I missed that shit. I sucked all game. I was nice earlier that day, but I sucked all game.
We played a 4v4. We played a 4v4.
I want that shot. It felt good coming out of my hands. It missed. And we ultimately lost.
Well, this is like therapeutic for you.
Yeah,
going over it right now.
It fucking is. And honestly, I'm still pissed about it. I did not play well. I don't know the next time I'm gonna have a chance to redeem that shit. And so I'm kind of just sitting on that. So I mean, it is kind of easier said than done after you have a shit game, especially if you miss the shot.
Yep.
But
and Tatum had actually said,
at least they get to redeem themselves in 3 days.
Right. See you in 3 days.
Yeah, see you in 3 days.
Tatum had said, I know what I need to do. He's like, I know how to bounce back. After game 1, he was like, I know how to bounce back. And I do think that he did. He didn't have as great of a game.
No, I mean, at least he scored more than 12 points.
Exactly.
At the same time, like, would you rather, answer me this, would you rather have 0 points? Like, not talking game 7. I'm talking like game 3. Would you rather play 30 minutes and have a 0 burger, or and your team somehow still wins the game, right? You're playing, or you drop like 45 points. They throw you the no help animation, but you lose.
Oh, I'd always rather win. Always take the win.
That's the right answer.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the obvious answer. That's the obvious answer.
Because if you get a chip, you'll end up.
You definitely still, even if your team wins a game, like, you definitely still feel better about yourself. Like, you're like, oh, you know what? The rest of my team fucking picked up the slack. And honestly, that's kind of how I felt during the other game. During the game the other day, I sucked the whole game. Like, I think I hit one jump shot. I smoked a couple layups, smoked a bunch of 3-pointers. And, like, if I'm not providing spacing, it's like, what am I doing out there on the floor, But everybody else is playing well, and if we came away with that W, nobody would even remember that I missed that shot or that I was asked that day.
No, but it's gonna feel that fire for next time out.
Exactly. There's a no. Yeah, and remember what they say: if you don't win, you don't get no ice cream.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what's up.
That's how we live. Well, as we arrive here to breakfast, I think that concludes our episode. But Very exciting
I like
to
that little Rock and Jouve breakfast bash.
a little. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
guys. No, you first. You first.
No, please. You're a guest.
Thank you guys very much for tuning in. It's always nice to do a little Rock and Jouve live and in person. It's just
Absolutely.
It's just always a little different. It's a playoff atmosphere. It's a nice
It
playoff
is.
atmosphere.
Yeah. First live show in I don't even remember how long. So
Probably like 2019.
yeah, probably. So different circumstances. We wanted to set up the mics and really go at it for an hour. But this is
That's Joey's fault if he's listening.
Yeah,
We forgot
Joey
to remind
Stank.
him.
Go to hell for that. You forget to hook up a second mic. But thank you everybody for listening. We'll tune in on Wednesday or probably Thursday to get another episode out. But go C's.
Yeah, go Boston. Go fuck Boston. Or whatever you celebrate.
All right, bye.
Rock and Jouve. Rock and Jouve. Rock and Jouve. Rock and Jouve. Rock and Jouve.